The Sign of the Beaver, Chapter 12, page 59. I must have a bow, Matt decided one morning. He was envious of the bow Etienne often carried behind his shoulder, and of the blunt arrows he tucked into his belt. Only the day before, Matt had watched him swing it suddenly into position and bring down a flying duck. Etienne had picked up the dead bird carefully and carried it away with him. No doubt the Indians would find some use for every scrap of bone and feather. Matt knew by now that Etienne never shot anything just for the fun of it. With a bow and a little practice, Matt thought now, he might get a duck for himself. It would be a fine change from his usual fish. He had no doubt he could shoot with a bow. In fact, he had made them years ago back in Quincy. He and his friends had played at Indians, stalking each other through the woods and whooping out from behind trees. They had even practiced half earnestly at shooting a target. How could he have known that someday he would have need of such a skill? He cut a straight branch, notched it at either end, and stretched tight a bit of string his father had left. Arrows he whittled out of slender twigs, but something was definitely wrong. His arrows wobbled off in odd directions, or flopped on the ground a few feet away. He was chagrined when the next morning Etienne came walking out of the woods and surprised him at his practice. Etienne looked at the bow. "Not good wood," he said at once. "I get better." He was very exacting about the wood he chose. He searched along the edge of the clearing, testing saplings, bending slender branches, discarding one after another, till he found a dead branch of ash about the thickness of his 3 fingers. He cut a rod almost his own height and handed it to Matt. "Take off bark," he directed, and squatted down to watch while Matt scraped the branch clean. Then, taking it in his hands again, he marked off several inches in the center where Matt's hand would grip the bow. "Cut off wood here," he said, running his hand from center to ends. "Make small, like this." He held up one slim finger. Matt set to work too hastily. "Slow," Etienne warned him. "Knife take off wood too fast. Indian, use stone." Under the Indian's critical eye, Matt shaved down the branch, paring off the thinnest possible shavings. The slow work took all his patience. Twice he considered the task finished. But Etienne, running his hand along the curve of the bow, was not satisfied till it was as smooth as an animal bone. "Need fat now," he said. "Bear fat best." "Will this do?" Matt asked, bringing out a bowl of fish stew he had left cooling on the table. Carefully, with a bit of bark, Etienne skimmed off the drops of oil that had risen to the surface. He rubbed the oil from one end of the bow to the other till the bare wood glistened. Matt's frayed bit of string he cast aside. Instead, he set about making a bowstring as he had made the snare, the long strands of spruce root. This took the most of the morning as he patiently twisted the strands together, rolling them against his thigh to make them even and smooth. Finally, he tied one end to the notch in the bow and began slowly to bend the wood. The bow seemed to Matt to be as stiff as iron. It seemed impossible that it would bend, but slowly it yielded, till the string slipped over the notch at the other end. The bow was finished. "It's a beauty," Matt told him, filled with admiration at their joint handiwork. Etienne gave a grunt of satisfaction. "Shoot pretty good," he said. "One day make better. Indian take long time. Leave wood many days till ready." Before he left, Etienne cut off 4 slender shoots of birchwood. "Best for arrow," he exclaimed, explained, marking off with his hand a length of about 2 feet. He left Matt to do the whittling for himself. Matt was delighted with the bow, but shooting it was another matter. It was not in the least like the flimsy thing he had first created. It took all his strength to draw back the string. When he released the arrow, it flew with astonishing power off somewhere into the underbrush, anywhere but where he had aimed it. As fast as he could make new arrows, he lost them. But he was determined. He pegged a target of birch bark against a tree and shot at it, grimly, his arrows coming closer and closer with every day's practice. The heel of his hand was blistered from the stinging snap of the string. Etienne did not offer him any further advice, but when the root string began to fray, he brought with him one day a fine bowstring of twisted animal sinew, which would last for a long time. Using the new string, Matt could frequently nick the edges of his target. Soon, he promised himself, the squirrels would have more respect than to frisk about so boldly over his head.